RSS Studio just released this, which is their Classic Endurance Pack 1. I say this, on your screen right now is just one of the 3 cars that you can get in the pack. In this video, I'm going to be jumping into the Totally Not a Toyota, and we're going to be talking about the handling, what to expect from the pack, and you'll be able to hear how good of a job they've done with the audio with this pack. So fasten your seatbelts. If you enjoy sim racing content, click that subscribe button and maybe think about clicking the like button if you enjoy the video. Let's get into this car and let's drive it around Spa. So into the car we go. As you can see on the grid, I've added in the other 2 cars from the pack. The Ferruccio, I don't know what that's supposed to be, or the Fricacino, and the LMGT Nismo. I mean, I have no idea what that could be. And we are, of course, in the Toyama, which I have no idea. I mean, it sounds a little bit like it could be a Toyota. But, I mean, it can't be, can it? Because that would be copyright infringement. But we are in the Toyama, which I think is the best car. And let's just feast your ears on this as we go. This has got to be one of the nicest sounding cars in all of sim racing. I know it's not the most important part of a vehicle, but when it comes to feeling like you're in something that's got a beastie engine in it and something that's going quick, having a throaty, bassy, super power engine that also sounds spatially like it's behind you is absolutely fantastic for immersion. As we dart around the outside, it's all good. It's all good. So, of the cars, the first thing to keep in mind is that they're not actually very well balanced or bopped if you want to do multiplayer. We've just done a 5-hour live stream. We've gone through all the different cars. We've done at least 2 or 3 races with each car. They are not balanced at all. You could bop them yourself. There's actually some instructions when you download the mod on what you can do to bop them. But really, if you're driving all 3 of these cars in a race, they sort of end up being different, especially if you do a sprint race, and they end up being basically different classes of vehicle. In some ways, which is bad, I think, if you wanted to just jump in and drive and do multi-class with friends. But on the positive, what it does mean is that each of these vehicles is actually quite unique to drive, and each of them does bring their own character and value to the experience of driving them, and value from the mod pack. Now, all the cars are very much in the relatively tame handling compartment of vehicles. I don't necessarily mean unrealistically tame, I wouldn't know, but they are very forgiving vehicles to drive, especially on the default setups. I think RSS Studio have done a really good job of making the default setups very neutral, very easy to jump in. You know, anybody of any skill level will be able to get into these. And these are actually, I think, really nice vehicles, especially if you were coming from like GT3 cars, and that's what you're used to, and you're maybe not that familiar with like Formula cars or very snappy cars. These are so progressive, especially this Toyama with the default setup. They really get you into things. You've got TC and ABS on them as well, so you really, again, that sort of GT3 driving and GT3 expectation carries across with these vehicles. But when it comes to actually driving them quickly and getting the most out of them, especially with this Toyama, you really do start having to push it quite aggressively into the corners, and really balancing it and really balancing the throttle. I started to fiddle with the setup and stiffen the rear ARB on the car, stiffen the suspension, lower the front ARB, changing the gearing a bit and opening the rear diff and stuff, and then getting it a little bit onto the tyres more, and then it starts being more active to balance. But still, quite a sort of poised vehicle. Really quite interestingly, I think it's like a heavier handling dynamics are sort of a heavier, less responsive Maserati MC12 kind of thing going on, or a heavier, less responsive like Pagani Zonda R handling. If you play the Pagani Zonda, which is a fantastic vehicle to drive and in stock AC, you know that kind of envelope that you expect from this kind of prototype type vehicle. But this fits in really nicely, so smooth, really, really nice, and you actually really appreciate this vehicle. From the racing we've done, is on tracks like Silverstone, Spa, Road America. We have to try this at Road Atlanta, actually, that'd be good. Flowing circuits. This is just glorious to drive, and it's really, oh my god, listen to that. It's really hypnotic just driving it around the circuits, and you actually get into it's a really satisfying car to sort of carve out additional lap time by being super smooth and working it through the corner and just getting the balance right of driving into the car next to you. Just getting the balance right so that you get into that little bit of slide going into the corner, and you know, just doing it just right. Though in many ways it is quite a cumbersome vehicle, especially if you were coming from like Formula cars, it has its own charm to it. I think for some people they might not like the handling dynamics of this type of vehicle, and it might rub them the wrong way, especially if you like more nimble, more nimble, snappy vehicles. But if you're happier with heavier, bricky vehicles that still have the downforce and speed, then I think you might really like this. I certainly really like these cars, all three of them. In terms of pace and speed, actually, this is the fastest of the cars in the pack that you get included in the whole pack. Now, I think the other thing that RSS absolutely nail, and you can sort of see here, hopefully you can see a bit with the cars that we're approaching, the car models and the detailing is absolutely superb. When you look at the go into the showroom, you can take the bits of bodywork off where you normally have the clips for the the front and the back, the cowls and everything. All the details are there, and then all like the ducting and things are all animated. So when you're looking at it, and it's kind of, you're not driving it when you're doing that, but you can really appreciate the modelling, the work that goes into it, and just that sort of attention to detail that you get with RSS, which I think is what sort of makes it command the value over your sort of bog standard free mod that you would get. Combine that with the sound, and then I think the handling of this, as I say, I wouldn't know if it's realistic or not, or if it's close to what the real car would be like, but the actual handling dynamics are really nice either way. Particularly as well, actually, in terms of handling, leaning into the understeer, as I say, but also I'm not really normally a big fan of cars with ABS, but the way that you then have to lean on the ABS with this vehicle, trust in the ABS, and then trail brake it through the ABS to actually go quickly. Hello, matey. Again, it's just a satisfying dynamic, and nothing really stands out from the time we've just been driving it in the last 5 hours of live streaming. Nothing really stands out as like massively broken with the handling. There could be some subtle tyre issues and things that I've just not experienced yet, but nothing that I've noticed as a bit of a pleb. The only real fault that someone pointed out whilst we were live streaming was that the RPM dash on this car seems to update very slowly. Maybe that's what the real car did, but you would think that the RPM thing would be much quicker rather than being sort of, it's almost like it's averaged out. But other than that, there weren't many, if any, complaints from any of our viewers. Look at this. Now, I definitely think if you've got a VR headset, the Frappuccino car in the pack, you will really enjoy driving from a VR perspective. Though it is, all these vehicles are actually quite large in size, so if you're doing sprint racing, you can find on certain tracks overtaking can be tricky. But I think the VR experience is probably going to be best in the Frappuccino, totally not a Ferrari vehicle. And then the Nismo car, Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to want to turn that well compared to the Tiamo. And it's also a bit of a tank to drive. Supposedly it's got very good straight line speed. I did still find it really quite fun to drive at Monza, to sort of get it through those corners. It did have quite a nice bit of force feedback and bump steering. All these vehicles actually, with it being Assetto Corsa, they all have absolutely superb force feedback for tyre load and what's going on, and then what you need to do to react to them to get the most out of them. I've just killed a man. He clearly broke too early. There he goes. Strike. Bowling with expensive vehicles. But I think a big question a lot of you guys will be asking is £10. Is it worth it? Is it worth the £10? I always think with those sort of is it worth it questions, especially when it comes to mods, what it really comes down to is, will you personally get the time out of it? It's not really even about the actual quality of the mods themselves. I think RSS have pretty much proven themselves to be very high quality mod makers, you know. There's no real question there. But you do have the issue that with these types of vehicles, they are quite niche. It says classic. These are from like late 90s, so that's like 3 years ago, isn't it? Like 1999, that's 4 years ago. So really not that classic. But with them being classic, oh, I feel old. With them being classic cars and with it being a mod pack, obviously it could be harder to actually get into a race online with people. Even if you're doing league races, it can be hard to convince people to pony up that dosh if you want to do racing with humans. That's not necessarily an issue though if you're racing with AI, which maybe a lot of people will be doing. And in fairness, actually, advantage of using this with AI in AC is that the type of tracks that you typically race these cars on, Spa, Silverstone, you know, your sort of large endurance tracks, Le Mans, they tend to be the type of tracks that AI plays a bit better with for the most part. So you can actually have an okay experience with the AI. And the nice thing is if you are driving with AI, you're not going to be too worried about the bopping that much, or you can bop the vehicles yourself with just ballasting them, or there's stuff in the tells you the text file what you can do to adjust them. But if you're driving them for the experience with AI, then those sorts of differences don't necessarily matter so much. So yeah, whether or not it's worth buying, it's going to be down to you. And I think if you would yourself get the time out of it, and only you would know that. From my perspective, and I did buy this with my own hard-earned YouTube pennies, I do think these are worth £10. I think you are getting £10 worth of value, and they're going to be even better value when the custom car skins come out. So at the moment they have the skins, which are perfectly fine skins on them at the moment, but you know they're not using the brands and names that you'll be familiar with on these cars, because these are totally not Ferraris and Toyotas now. When the car skin packs come out that dress it up, I think you know that's when it really all comes together and makes the most amount of sense. Yeah, I think I would say these cars yet again are another fantastic pack by RSS. I'm a bit of a fanboy of their work going back. If you don't like this type of vehicle, I highly recommend that you check out other stuff by Race Sim Studios. They even just try their free cars. I think the F3 car is free, and that'll give you a good example of the type of quality that they produce. The Formula Hybrid, actually the Formula Hybrid might be free as well. They've got another Formula car that, you know, they've got the Formula 1, not Formula 1 cars, copyright. And the last car they released, the 1970s not Formula 1 car, that's just got phenomenal detail, and they're just fun to drive. I love the work that RSS does, and when you combine it with shader patch and salt, I mean, look at this. Just look at it. Absolutely glorious. Assetto Corsa, the sim that just keeps providing. Unbelievable. So there's not much more to say really, other than I think you should get. I think it's worth getting. If you like this sort of thing, it's worth getting. If you like AI racing, whether it's worth getting, if you've got a group of friends you can convince to buy it, or you subscribe to us and join us when we race AC, which is every now and again, then it's worth getting. Miserable people, it's not worth getting. If you like really, really hyper nimble modern cars, then you might not like it. Maybe it's not worth getting. But if you just like driving in general and you love historic, it's 90s. If you love this sort of thing, you'll absolutely love this. But there you go, guys. That is that's the Toyamo. But that's my introduction to the Classic Endurance Pack by RSS and my thoughts of it after 5 hours of live streaming. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, as I say, click that subscribe button, click the like button, and most importantly of all, make yourselves a ginormous, filthy cup of tea. Take care, thanks for watching, and goodbye, guys.